Good evening, Pure Potential members. We're here on Friday, the 10th of October. It is my sister's birthday, so shout out to her. You guys are here and ready to go. Frailster's in the chat calling me out for being late again. What can I say? I'm a busy man. Spent too long playing Silk Song this afternoon, so I had to work on some stuff to stay on schedule before the stream tonight. Max is here. What's up? Nico says it's either a good or bad thing my trade made the thumbnail. Yeah, I guess we'll find out, won't we? Kevin's here. Austin's here. Just running through these guys. Rio is here. DJ Double P. That's a new one. All right. Let's rock. So we're going to talk trades tonight. I mean, obviously you guys can ask questions as always. You can jump us to whatever topics are on your mind, but I'm going to run through the trades you guys put in Discord. You gave me plenty to work with, so I'm going to just scroll through, check out the context, and try to give you my lean one way or the other. Just doing it on the spot. And certainly if you're here and you give me additional context, we can work through that as well. But I'll start with some chats here from the early viewers. Kevin wants to know if I would trade Tootin, a playoff first and a 2027 first for McBride on a team with Bowers already. 2 firsts and Tootin for McBride. I'm going to have to assume tight end premium league. I don't think you need to do that, to be honest, right now. Like, I think you could. I get it. I just feel like you're not getting that like smash production right now from McBride. And certainly he could turn it on. But you're talking about a guy you're going to put in the flex, right? So you've already got theoretically the tight end premium advantage. So you're talking about a guy you're going to put in the flex. You're giving up the flexibility with your team next season. I don't know. It feels like a deal that I wouldn't make right now, even though it's a deal I probably would have made in the offseason, just because I think other opportunities could come up to spend that first on a player you have more confidence in, like putting your team over the top. And then again, just having that flexibility with the first later on. So I'd probably hold off on that. Austin, I have no idea what I'm doing in that league, just to be totally honest. I am putting it on the back burner for this week, probably, and we'll kind of see where things are sitting after week 6, I think, because I just, every time I look at that league, it just stresses me out. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it. Arlen says sending Penix and Brashard Smith for a mid first. Yeah, I would do that. Would I trade away Neighbors on a contender for a Mecca Buka? I still want a plus on top to trade Neighbors for Egbuka. I don't think I would do it straight up. I just think there's other ways that you can go and get a productive player without giving up Neighbors. So if the value is not going to be there, I don't want to do it. Austin, I think Hunter can actually have a nice ramp up here rest of the season. I mean, we saw what he could do with the ball in his hands last week. The Jaguars desperately need that. Brenton Strange goes on IR. That could change up their personnel. Maybe they run more 11 with Brenton Strange out. Either way, they need another capable pass catcher out there. Josh Norris had a really good note about the Seahawks. I think they're playing the Seahawks this week. About the Seahawks forcing opposing teams. Seahawks offense forcing opposing defenses into base personnel. Travis Hunter doesn't play in base personnel. He plays in like nickel and dime packages. So if the Seahawks are going to force a ton of base personnel from the Jaguars, that means less defense for Hunter, probably more offense this week. Josh Norris was saying like take his overs. So I don't know. I'm optimistic. Like I think he can build on this. And obviously every game that we get from him where he looks good on offense, that is a weighted bet towards more offensive usage, more production in the future. So I'm still optimistic. I'd still buy low on him. if you have the chance. I feel like my leagues, I just don't even bother sending offers because everybody that drafted him in my leagues are all these like ball knower types. A lot of them took him at 102, and it's like they're not really selling low. So if you're in a league where people are willing to sell low, I think go for it. I don't know why my nose looks so shiny. I just washed my face earlier, and I guess maybe that's why. The light is shining on it in a very weird way right now. All right, let's get into these trades. What I'm going to do here, I just very quickly threw the Discord window onto the screen here. So it's kind of cropped weird. You're going to see certain chat messages get cut off. I just wanted you to be able to see the trades. Let me see what happens if I open these. Okay, that doesn't work. So I'm going to have to leave it like this. I just wanted you to kind of see the trades. I'll talk through them. I can read the context, and I'll try to go kind of quick because I think there's at least like 30 of these. We have like a lot of members now, which is really cool. And thank you guys so much. But it's also we've also got a lot of trades to get through. And I don't want to ignore the chat either. Would you trade away A-Chan on a rebuild or keep him? I would trade him. I would put A-Chan on the block. I think this is right now is the time you're going to get peak value for a running back who has a really fantasy friendly role, but also has a lot of uncertainty ahead in the future. So yes, that's a guy I'm shopping for sure. There's not many running backs that I'm deliberately holding on to in a rebuild, especially non-rookie running backs. Anthony says send Brian Thomas plus Chase Brown for London plus 201 in a 10-team league. This is a 10-team dynasty. Send BTJ and Chase Brown for London and 201. Yeah, absolutely would do that. I was like stuck for a second because I wasn't sure if I was reading it wrong. I want London ahead of BTJ, and I want the 201 way ahead of Chase Brown. So that feels like a smash for you. Absolutely make that trade. All right. First trade here from the member stream channel is from Legend. So shout out to the Legend 12 by 10 Superflex tight end premium rebuild. Devontae Adams, Chase Brown in a third for Jalen Warren in a first. I like the value here, and that is a 2026 first. Yeah, I like the value on that. Chase Brown's definitely a guy I want to get off of. I'd rather have Warren than Brown, and I'd rather have a first than Adams. Now, you get this trade done, turn around, put Warren on the block. I mean, maybe wait for him to come back healthy and have a decent game. If you can get that done in week 6 or week 7, go try to flip him for a second. But, yeah, I mean, this is a great deal for you to get a first-round pick out of these guys. Anytime you can package up these assets that are worth less than a first individually and get yourself a first-round pick, that's huge. And I mean, yeah, I would assume it's a late first. I see you here in the chat, Pokemon guy. I would assume it's a late first, but I still think that's a win. You think about Adams going to the offseason 33 years old. Chase Brown is not assured of anything in the future. You're just way better off with the pick. Remember what came out of the late first recently. Emeka Egbuka, Tyler Warren, potentially, Jackson Dart, Lad McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., those guys, they'll figure it out. Massive value gains coming from the late first in recent years. So, yeah, we like those picks. Next one from Russell's Muscles. Simple enough trade, 12 by 10 Superflex, 0.75 tight end premium best ball league. I'm rebuilding. Sends away Genty for Bowers. Classic Raider swap. I mean, this is a win to me. Like 0.75 tight end premium is real nice to get Bowers. Rebuilding team, you want the tight end over the running back, I'd say. More shelf life, more value, stability there. So love this deal. And I get it from the contender side too, but it just is a great move for you. Then we have the War Room. Contender, number 1 in dynasty value and contender value. QB2 was Geno, but needed a wide receiver. I have Kincaid and Waller at tight end as well. So he sends away. I'm going to open this up for a second so I can see it better. Let me just see if I can fix this. Hold on. Maybe if I just move it like this and then I can just open each one. We're figuring this out, guys. All right. He sends Rattler and Bowers for Baker, Waddle, Rashad White, a first and a second. Okay. All right. So we'll just call Rattler and the second I mean, I'd take the second slightly ahead of Rattler, but let's just call that a wash for a second. Baker, Waddle, and a first for Bowers. I don't hate it. I mean, I'm very rarely in favor of breaking down these star players into multiple pieces. Value-wise, if we call that 27 pick a base one, if we call Waddle a base one, we call Baker 1.25-ish, 3.25 base first for Bowers. I mean, that's certainly fair value. I don't know if it's the way I would have gone about getting a quarterback and a wide receiver, but I understand. I mean, I get what you're doing there. And number one in value. That's the other thing, number one in value. So like if you're a number one in value team, there's got to be other ways, right, that you can get, because that's a scarce asset in Bowers. That's the thing that makes me hesitant. It's a scarce asset, and you already have all this value. So it's like, why can't we allocate value that you have in other places to go get these pieces you need rather than breaking up Bowers? So that's how I feel. I probably wouldn't have made the trade. I get it. Like I would have tried to flip Kincaid plus something for a quarterback. Or Kincaid plus something for a Jalen Waddle type, right? Like that's how I would have done it, but not the end of the world. Scoots, shout out Scoots. I'm still trying to figure this out in a way that makes sense here. Hold on, let's do that. 10 team, half PPR rebuilder. Trade from 3 weeks ago. Okay, so we'll see how this has not aged very well for our poor friend Scoots. He sent away Mahomes, Pickens, and Scattaboo for Hurts and Golden. This feels especially painful in a half PPR league with how Scattaboo has developed over those last few weeks. Certainly, I'd still rather have Hurts than Mahomes, but not by as much as I might have said a few weeks ago. And then Scattaboo and Pickens is just like so much more valuable than Golden. So tough one for Scoots. I could see the vision here for sure, but yeah, this one you kind of want back. What happened to my chat, guys? You guys just like disappeared. No, there's no peanut gallery at all right now. All right, next up we have 2 from Austin. He's greedy. He wants me to do 2 here. First is after week 1. Second is week 4. Both contenders, normal leagues. How dumb am I for trading 2 firsts for Brian Thomas and trading Warren for McBride? Those are like bonus trades. I'm not talking about those bonus trades. Let's look at this one. Trade with Whaler 213. It's Worthy, Jefferson, and a 4th for Nico, Warren, and Otten. Love this trade because Warren and Nico are just, I think they're both premium assets. I think Worthy is just a step down. Jefferson is the highest value asset here, but I think because you're getting 2 guys that I would consider like, scarce, borderline top 20 type of players, league breaking potential, and you're only having to give up the 1 in Jefferson and then another good player, but not quite in that tier with Worthy. I like that deal. The other one is sending away Puka for Warren and Egbuka. That's awesome, right? Like you made that after week 4. Those guys have even gained value since then. It sucks to move the Dynasty wide receiver 1, but if you're going to do it, you get these 2 rookies lighting the world on fire, both going to be second round startup picks, I think, next year. So yeah, you have to like those deals. Next up, we have Pepe Sylvia, a 10x8, 1 QB PPR. That's kind of gross, man. I'm not going to lie. Very shallow league, 80 total starters. Wanted to get off the Bengals train and Saquon. That seems smart. Roster remains stacked, and I'm accruing 27 firsts, sitting with 3 now. The 2026 second is the 201. This is a smash deal. Like, this is a fantastic trade. I would still rather have McConkey over Barkley. It's closer in a 10-team start 8 because the scoring, like the stability of a wide receiver versus the scoring upside of a guy like Barkley is different, but we're not even seeing the Barkley scoring right now. So McConkey, Barkley would call that a wash. To get a first and the 201 in 2026 for T. Higgins is just a king's ransom at this point. So you made out very well there in that trade. Here we come with Nico, 12 by 10, half point tight end premium, super flex league. Lost Neighbors and felt like the team needed a reload for a year since I was the lowest, max points 4. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Underperformer, lost Connor. So went ahead and traded Brees for JCM and a first. I'm going to guess you got this done before week 5 because otherwise this is a crazy return. I'm feeling bad that I moved one of my JCM shares for Brees Hall. I traded I traded JCM and 2 seconds for Brees, and it's a 0.25 points per carry league. So those higher volume running backs come at such a premium. And while I was certainly, I was on board with buying JCM, I didn't know it was going to happen like this fast and look this good. And so, yeah, I'd probably want that one back. I don't think I would add that much to JCM for Brees Hall, even though he obviously still has the high ceiling. And I think he's actually like younger or like the same. I mean, they're basically the same age, Brees Hall and JCM. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like I said, you made out well here. And especially with that pick being from such a bad team, that makes it an even crazier trade. I'd probably trade Brees for just that pick. So, yeah, incredible work there. That's one you just have to be pretty happy with. Pepe Sylvia sneaks another one in here from a 12 by 9 Superflex PPR 2 tight end league. Thank you for telling me about the 2 tight end premium here in this trade. Very relevant when we're talking about JCM and a third for Demario Douglas and a first. I'm assuming you got the top end here and that you traded JCM for a first. I think I remember seeing this in the chat at one point, that this pick sits at the 106. So you got a mid projected first for JCM. Yeah, in a league with no like points per carry bonuses or anything, that is absolutely a smash. I don't care how much we like Bill. You're still talking about a guy that doesn't have a huge pass catching ceiling, already 24 as a rookie. I love the guy. He's gained a ton of value, but we're not in mid first round pick territory with Bill. So that's great. One of our newer members, depressed Texans fan. Same league, entering a rebuild. I traded for Neighbors, then flipped him for Allen to fill a big hole at quarterback. So let's take a look at these deals. He sent Jefferson and Henry for Neighbors and a first. Okay, love that. Masterclass on that trade. And then traded Neighbors and Dart for Allen. Okay, that one's that one's tougher from with what we've seen from Jackson Dart so far. I'm sure that where the rankings sit today, that's close to an even deal. I think Dart is probably a guy that's rising. I'm not sure how high it's reasonable to move him after so few starts, but you don't want to be way behind on these young quarterbacks. So yeah, I say this one's kind of a push. Like, I think you're probably better off with Neighbors and Dart next year than Allen, but at the same time, you get Allen for the rest of this year. That can go a long way. So yeah, I slightly lean towards the Neighbors Dart side. All in all, though, you still got a first for Derrick Henry. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know. That one's hard to parse for me. Nico comes back in with another one. This is the one that's on the thumbnail. Sends away Neighbors and Sampson for Ferguson and London. Important context here, guys. This is a contending team where he didn't have his first, and this is a 1.0 tight end premium. So in a regular tight end premium league, I'd feel kind of meh about this trade. In a 1.0, this is a good trade. Okay, Jake Ferguson in a 1.0 tight end premium league is melting faces right now. Like he is like a top 3 or 4 overall scorer. It might be higher. Like he might be he's one of the highest scoring players, including quarterbacks, in the entire format. So he's borderline. I don't even know how you get a Jake Ferguson in one of those leagues right now. That's going to be, that's a huge addition for a contending team. So yeah, it's on the thumbnail because you did fleece in this trade. I really like that one. I've been trying to find a way to steal away some Ferguson shares in those formats, and it's just very hard to do. especially like if you don't want to give up a first, it's very hard to do it. All right. Ooze or Oz with the ranch dressing as a profile picture. Oh, you guys can't see that. His profile picture is literally a bottle of ranch dressing. Superflex, 0.75 tight end premium PPR, 12-man. It's a 2-part trade. Traded for Bowers because I hated my draft and wanted to distance from Nico and the Texans' problems. Then had the opportunity to down tier from Bowers while acquiring JSN. Okay. All right. So 0.75 tight end premium. He traded Nico, Barner, Pearsall in a second for Bowers in a fourth. Probably a little bit rich, but in a 0.75, I do understand it. We call Pearsall late one. Nico in a late one in a second. Yeah, I mean, it's not that far off. The second trade, though, Bowers, J-Mo, Tootin, Caleb, and a fourth for Jackson Smith and Jigba and Tucker Kraft. So I like that because I think Bowers and JSN are pretty close in that format. And then J-Mo, Tootin, and Caleb for Kraft in a 0.75 tight end premium. That seems pretty fair. So you're consolidating guys around. I mean, I think you look at it as like you're consolidating guys around Kraft, who's a nice tight end to have in that format, and then you're swapping Bowers for JSN. I think that's a good move. You get the 2/3 as well. Yeah, I can get on board with that. Carter, 14 team Superflex, tight end premium start 9, had Neighbors, now rebuilding, shedding points by selling Mahomes and T-Law, liked the T-Law trade, uncertain on the Mahomes trade. So one deal here, sending Mahomes for Higgins, a first and a second, and Anthony Richardson. Yeah, dude, I do not love that trade. I will say this one, Lawrence for McCarthy in a second is totally fine. Got no issue with that one. I think that's probably a solid move. I have those guys ranked pretty close. This one, Carter, I think you might have screwed up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that. But in a 14-team Superflex, the scarcity of a quarterback like Mahomes is very, very high. I just don't think these pieces are nearly enough. I mean, the first is in 2028. Higgins is like a borderline first round value. You're talking about like two first, but like far away, one's far away, one is late-ish, then a second, and then Richardson holds like no value to me. So that one's pretty tough. I feel like you could have waited and shopped around longer. Could have worked on that or just kept Mahomes. I feel like I would just keep Mahomes in a 14-team Superflex teardown because quarterbacks are going to be scarce. It's only a start 9, so like you only have 7 starters that aren't quarterbacks. It's like you don't really need to go out and get a lot of depth. So I would not have made that deal. Jabulani up next, 12 team, Superflex, half PPR, start 11 league. I'm rebuilding, traded away Bijan. Both firsts should be early to mid. That's huge. So we've got Bijan, a third, and a mid second. Call it a base second. For Henderson, and then 2, according to Jabulani, early to mid firsts. I mean, if that's true, this is just like an auto win for sure. Even if those end up being more mid than early, that's still a win. Obviously, we hope Henderson can do the thing, but I'm taking 3 first-round picks for any running back. This feels like at least 3 first-round picks to me. Carter back again, different league. I broke this team down. You have Neighbors, Gibbs, Nico, and like 100 guys on IR. Nice. 10-team, 1 quarterback league. Made this move before you sent the breakdown, but was just trying to get rid of Kittle here at decent value. 1 quarterback league, Kittle and a second for Burrow. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't really know how to value quarterbacks in 1 QB leagues, but Joe Burrow feels like a guy that I just wouldn't care about in a 1 QB league because he's not a Konami rushing quarterback, and so I give him like lower probability or lower odds of being one of those quarterbacks that just laps the field. Obviously, he did it in 2024 where he was like top 3, I think, in scoring. If it's 6-point passing touchdowns, I'd feel a little bit better, but I don't know. I mean, it's not a ton to give up. Kittle in a second, but I just don't know if Burrow is the type of quarterback I'd really be consolidating value around. I feel like in one quarterback, if I don't have like Daniels, Allen, Lamar, maybe Hurts, May, Caleb working their way into that conversation, Mahomes is rushing more, maybe him. If I don't have one of those guys, I probably just want like, who is this year's Justin Fields, or who is this year's like Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford running hot on touchdowns? Who's a guy I can get cheap that has scoring upside, rather than trying to invest in one of these high-end pocket passers, because there's so much variance in the touchdown rates from year to year, and you're not gaining anything from like positional security in one quarterback, because there's just quarterbacks everywhere. They're so easy to get. Jabulani, 12-team Superflex PPR, start 10. A lot of you guys are double dipping tonight with some of these. I'm a contender and acquired Hampton. 27 first should be very late. I don't know if I accept very late. I mean, have you seen some of the teams we came into the year with that we thought were going to be late? I have teams that I thought were going to be late that are like contending for 101. So I don't know if I buy that, but we'll call it a mid to late 27 first. 22, 26 seconds are early, mid, and late. Okay. So a hopefully late first in 2027, and then 2 seconds for Hampton. This feels like an even trade to me. I don't know if I would make it right now, just because like you're a contending team and you bought a running back that has like an ankle injury and an unclear return timeline. I feel like if you're giving up your 2027 first, I feel like I would do it for a player that is going to help you immediately, help you get the bye week. Hampton's not helping you get the bye week, so I don't know. The value's fine. Probably better ways to spend those picks, but I'll allow it. Red Bory, 12 by 11, Superflex PPR half-point tight end premium league, so pretty basic standards there, a little bit bigger lineup. 1-4 team, doesn't have its own first. Oh, buddy, I've been there. I am there. Felt like a good move to get the first back and give my season some more flexibility while staying competitive with Igbuka. Okay. Get the first back. Okay. So you get the first back. So you sent Lamb, Dart, and a third for Dak, Igbuka, and your first back. I think we pretty clearly prefer Dart to Prescott at this point. Probably by a decent margin. Not a first. Not a first, but maybe like a mid-second at least. And then Lamb versus Igbuka. Obviously, we still prefer Lamb. So you're sending the two best pieces here. You're downgrading Lamb to Igbuka. You're downgrading Dart to Prescott. I don't really care about Swift. You're getting your own first back. This feels like a trade that you can win on value if you were actually going to tank and get that early pick. If that pick ends up being, 108, then I don't really love it. But I wouldn't want you to tank. I mean, I don't think you should tank your season deliberately so that you can just win the trade. Like, play it out. I get what you're saying about flexibility. It's kind of like you're locking yourself into a smaller loss, right? Because if you keep losing and you don't have your first, then you're kind of stuck and you can't claw your way out of that hole. So you're taking a bit of a value loss up front on the deal with the potential to save yourself from a worse loss later. So I think it's okay. Easy peasy, 246. Not someone I've seen in the chat very much, but he's here with a 10-team Superflex, half PPR, no tight end premium trade. Feel like I'm threading a needle this season without neighbors. I received a 26 mid-second and Chris Rodriguez, traded away Kamara and a fourth. Yeah, I mean, this is a solid deal to move off of Kamara. I think there are outcomes where he gets dealt. There's certainly a lot of rumors swirling about him getting dealt, but not every place he could get dealt would necessarily be a good place. If he goes to the Bears, if he goes to the Chiefs, I think all of a sudden we feel a lot better about Kamara. But regardless, if you're not competing, trading a what is he, 29, 30-year-old Alvin Kamara for a mid-second, is a totally fine and defensible trade. Austin, I like this trade too. I'm not saying I don't like the trade. I'm saying there are worlds where Kamara could outplay the value of a mid-second, but I'm not saying I wouldn't trade him. Like, certainly I would trade. I traded. Actually, I didn't end up moving him in a trade. I almost moved him yesterday in a similar deal, and then I ended up making a different deal. Is the ridiculous trade I made with Chris, with so many pieces in it. Let me see if I can even just pull it up here. You can't even do that. I made this ridiculous trade with Chris this is our Pokemon themed Empire League, where you have to collect all the badges in order to reset the league. And basically my team ran so pure, was so good last year, first in points, first in record, loses in the semifinals, can't even get to the finals. Kind of disrespectful, honestly. And then it just falls apart this year. Neighbors goes down, Evans goes down, Gino sucks, Kamara sucks, Henry sucks. Just not good. Just not good across the board. I literally had no wide receivers to play one week. Team was falling apart. So I sent all these pieces over to Chris. He sends me 3 seconds. He sends me Darnold. I'm getting kind of spooked on Gino. I'm not going to lie, job security wise. Feel better about having Darnold going into next year. And it's a 6-point passing touchdown. So I do put some value into the quarterbacks. And then Harvey, rolling the dice on him, potentially gaining a bigger role, or maybe just being able to flip him later. I think this one makes some sense for both of us. He has plenty of value to spare. Puts him in a good spot to compete. I mean, I think he's catching the falling knife a little bit on Henry and Gino, but Jacobs is a good piece. Waller's a good piece. Evans could be good. He gets that $1 fab, which is huge. But anyway, I digress. Contending team. Burrow out for the season. Couldn't waste a year. Felt like I got good value. Sends away Burrow and Burden for Stroud and Egbuka. Don't let Yella see that you traded Burden. But yeah, I mean, Burrow and Egbuka, I think, are within striking distance at this point. Pretty close. And then Stroud in Superflex is just clearly a win over Burden. I don't care what you think of Stroud. Obviously, he's not as good as we once thought he was. He's still a guy who's going to start in the league for a long time. Let's see Burden score 8 points per game before we start putting him in the same category. So, yeah, great trade there from Schnitz, one of our league winners. Big Dog Berg comes up next. A wild trade. A wild one of this past weekend. 10-team tight end premium PPR. Was a contender before the Burrow and Neighbors went on IR. Now mid, I would say. Okay. So he trades Quinshawn, kind of bearing the lead here. Booty, Coker, Judkins. That's kind of the main piece. And a second for, oh my gosh, Jacoby, Ellick, Fannin, Tesla, first, third. 10-teamer, tight end premium PPR. This is interesting. I think it matters a lot where this first is, because Quinshawn Judkins in a 10-team league is definitely a premium piece. Ceiling-wise, there's just only so many running backs that are going to be able to give you what he can give you. And you look at like Jacoby, Ellick, Tesla, the thirds, like all of those are pretty replaceable pieces. Even Fannin, kind of replaceable piece. I don't know if I love this trade. I'm not sure what we're trying to accomplish here, to be honest. I don't know what the goal is for this trade. Are you just like tearing it down? Because if you're tearing it down, like, why do we want Myers? I guess you can maybe flip him later. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like you could get more. I think you could get more for Judkins in most leagues. And I think I would have just tried to do whatever I had to do to get 2 firsts. Instead of all this mess. But you might be able to piece some additional deals together. It's not terrible on value. It's just probably not how I would do it. Max is up next with a a trade, send away Tyler Warren and Josh Downs for Barakathy Bowers, Jimmy Horn, and a fourth. Thank goodness you got Jimmy Horn in this trade, because otherwise I think you got fleeced. But with how it stands right now, I mean, Josh Downs and Jimmy Horn, kind of a wash, right? They're both just kind of ancillary pieces in their offenses. No, I mean, I'm kidding, but I'm also not kidding, right? I still want Bowers over Warren. I still believe in Bowers as the supreme talent at the position. And I don't think Downs is enough of a sticking point as it stands today. So, yeah, good deal to get the best player in the deal. Mad Matt, 3001. I'm rebuilding, tanking. And that second is from another tanking team. So likely the 201 or the 202. Sent away Pittman and Walker for Golden, a very early second, 201 or 202, and a third. I think this is a pretty even trade. I think on a rebuilding team, trading Walker for Golden is a fine move. And then I think trading Pittman, for a very early second and a third, I think is a fine move. So a sensible trade for a rebuilder. It kind of sucks to move both of those pieces and not get a first. I understand Golden kind of functions as the first there, but I would maybe prefer to get a first round pick in a deal like this, just because Golden isn't necessarily locked in, but it can certainly work out for you. I think you got the better side of it for a rebuild. Colstar, hard rebuild, 12 team, start 10. I had his first, and he sent a different late second. Okay, so you sent Woody, Kyle Williams, a first and a second for Tet, a third and a fourth. I like getting Tet. I will say it feels like you kind of had this guy over a barrel a little bit. If you have his first and he's kind of stuck and wants to tank, it feels like you could have got better value here, because, I mean, if he successfully tanks and gets to like the 102, it feels like he wins this trade. Like he gets the 102, and then he also gets a second, and he also gets Woody Marks, and then maybe Kyle Williams is something, probably not. But all those pieces versus just McMillan, I don't know. That being said, if he, drags his feet or whatever, and this pick ends up being 105, 106, I definitely think you win. And there's a good chance if you keep the pick, it doesn't end up that early. So ultimately, I think it's a good move to consolidate around McMillan there. All right, we've got a couple more. Well, more than a couple, but we've got some more. We're gonna keep chugging along here. Jake D Snake chimes in with his 12x10 contending team without his first. He lost Neighbors and Tyreek Hill, 2-for-1 special. He sent Neighbors, Tootin, and a second for Drake London and Quinshon Judkins. That is beautiful. Chef's kiss. Lovely trade. Must not be a domain league if you're getting Quinshon Judkins, especially on the cheap there. Obviously we still want Neighbors over London, but Judkins over Tootin in a second by a long shot. So yeah, good stuff there, Jake. I think you're in a good spot. Clanger's here with a couple trades. We know Clanger wins his trades, right? He's become a mythical figure to Austin at this point in the league winners chat. 12x11, half point tight end premium, contending team, slew of injuries that make the 7-3 start a waste. He sends Lamb for Bowers and a third in a tight end premium league. Seems kind of lateral to me, but I do like it. There's benefit to going and getting the player at the scarcer position there, and then a third's a third, whatever. 12x11 Empire League rebuilding team, racing to the 101, sending DJ Moore and Nico for Jaden Reed and Brian Thomas. Again, kind of lateral move, getting younger here and getting points off by getting Reed and getting points off by getting Brian Thomas. So makes sense. Pretty even deal. Not like a fleece or anything. 12x11, 0.2 points per carry league, 0.75 tight end premium, rebuilding, race for 101. Taylor was my tight end 4. So 2 seconds, racing for 101 for Rattler and Taylor. I think Taylor's worth a little more than a second. I think Rattler's worth a little less than a second. James is whatever. The fourth is whatever. So again, an even deal, makes sense for the team build. Solid. All right. Random Nacho. 12 by 12. First start 12 league we've seen. Superflex half PPR. Rebuilding team. Rice Dart done week 1. Okay, the first trade was week 1. Second trade was week 3. So in week 1, sent... Oh, you can't see that. In week 1... Sorry, you guys just aren't going to be able to see this one. In week 1, he sent Downs and Harrison for Rice, Dart, and a second. That has aged like a fine wine, my friend. I mean, I would literally trade, I would trade Downs and Harrison for either asset in this deal, Rice or Dart. My goodness. That's one that you're going to be thinking about that trade for the rest of your life. You're going to be chasing that high forever. The other one after week 3 sent Jawan, Rashad White, Jordan Mason, and a third for a first and a second. I mean, fantastic consolidation trade to get picks. Like, I don't know how you get to just get a first out of this would be a solid win. To get a first and a second, you got to be in one of these Facebook Marketplace leagues to get these deals done. Yeah, those are good. Those are you're just flexing on us with those. Freelster, we got a little run of league winners here. Freelster 12 by 10, Superflex PPR 1.0 tight end premium, tearing the roster down, getting my early second back in the process for Debo, Devontae Adams, and Hunter Henry, Olave, and an early second. That's a win. I like that. You get the early second. We'll call that a wash for Debo or Adams, and then Olave for Adams or Henry. Adams and Henry. Seems straightforward. Good deal for you. Jake just completed another trade a little earlier today. Playoff bubble team on the outside looking in. Traded playoff bubble team, 40% chance to make the playoffs, and this fell from the sky. Brian Thomas in 2 seconds for Malik Neighbors. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to find a way to replace Brian Thomas's 10 points per game as you approach the playoffs. But hopefully you can find a way to do that, and then you can have Neighbors and you can have the same production as well. So, love that. I haven't been able to add any Neighbors. I've traded away 2 shares, and I haven't added any shares. So I feel terrible about that. I would love to get some more Neighbors, but everywhere I've gone to look for him, he's already on a rebuilder. At least on the teams where I have either I'm rebuilding or I have the capital I could spend. It just doesn't seem to be in the cards for me. Then we have some gifts, and then we have my announcement. And then we have one more trade from Austin that you guys can't see because it's at the bottom of the screen. Here, I'll put it on the screen. After week 2, if we have... Oh, by the way, hater. If we have time, which we won't. We do have time. I'm already done all the trades because I was speed running. Sent Prescott and Walker for Henderson in a second. Yeah, we don't like this trade as much as we did after week 2. That's for sure. I mean, I'd still take Henderson over Dak. I'd still take Walker, obviously, over a second. I think this is pretty close to even right now. I think it was a totally reasonable deal to make at the time. It's just that Dak has overperformed as far as the passing volume, his performance, even with Lamb out of the lineup, and then Henderson has underperformed. But there's still a lot of time to get that right. So don't think it's like a massive loss or anything. I just don't think it's a big win right now. All right. We made it, guys. We made it through all those trades. I appreciate you sending them in. Hopefully my thoughts made sense on a lot of those, and hopefully that helps. I don't know. Hopefully hearing me break them down helps a little bit just with like how I think about trades, and I'm always looking for ways to try to like streamline the process and make some decisions a little more automatic. It just seems like there's so much context that's needed for so many deals when it comes to, you know, what are your contingent, like what are your other options with a trade, and what is the exact situation your team is in? What is the situation the other team is in? Like, how important is depth in this league? How important are different positions? Like, it's so hard to boil down the trade process into a simple, you know, decision tree, like a flow chart or anything. So just had to just think it's nice to go ahead and look over some deals. I think there was one that was DM'd to me. Actually, I don't know if I have it right now. One of our league winners who's not very talkative in the members chat, but usually talks to me through DMs. The three Gabies. I don't know how to say his name, unfortunately, but he's a nice guy, and he DMs me and we talk about trades. He asked if I was doing a trade review show, and he had a deal. Lawrence, Benson, and 2 seconds for Stafford, Brees, and Olave. And I thought that was a smash deal if you could get it done. Stafford, Brees, and Olave there seems like a win. Brees over Lawrence, Olave over, let's say, over Benson in a second, Stafford over 1 second. I think that's just a clear win. And then the other deal he got an offer was Bowers, to get Bowers straight up for Amari and Hampton in a tight end premium league. So I told him to smash accept that. Hopefully you did. If you're watching this, hopefully you took that deal to get Bowers for Hampton in tight end premium. I think that's pretty sick. So, all right, guys, that is probably going to do it. I don't mind having it be a little bit shorter today because still got to do at least, I think, one team breakdown after this is over. But yeah, that was fun. Looking ahead to week 6, we get to see the Bears coming out of the bye. Hopefully we can get a little more usage for our guys, Colson Loveland, Luther Burden. I've been thinking about Cam Scatterbo. Let me talk about Cam Scatterbo for a second, just to wrap this up. Because obviously he has become one of the biggest possible wins that you could have drafted in rookie drafts. And I would like to point out, guys, that I was saying to sell Saquon Barkley this offseason. I tried to take my own advice. The leagues I was in were not valuing him anywhere close to the consensus. But it is kind of crazy to think that people were drafting Saquon Barkley in the second round of Dynasty startups. And now you can't even get Cam Scatterbo for him straight up. I offered Saquon Barkley straight up for Cam Scatterbo in 4 leagues. The only 4 leagues I have Saquon Barkley. In 2 of those leagues, I actually added a 4th on my side. And I was declined in all of them. I ended up making a separate deal for Scatterbo in one of those leagues where I sent my own first, which is, I think, likely to be a playoff first, and Brian Robinson for Scatterbo, which in my mind is less than Barkley, but that's what he wanted. Not a single person would give me Scatterbo for Barkley. So it's just funny where we're at after 5 weeks. But I wasn't high enough on Cam Scatterbo in the post-draft process. Obviously, I believe I put him in the fades video. That was because he was going at like 203, 204, and I had him ranked around 208, 209. So it wasn't a huge gap. It never really is with the ADP game. Like, there's usually not players that are going more than 4 or 5 spots higher or lower than I think they should. The market's just too sharp for that. But obviously, in hindsight, I needed him to be a target. And he wasn't a target. He was a fade. And that means if you were following me, you probably don't have a lot of shares. And I was thinking about that, whether it was just a miss, or whether there was a process error there. So I tried to think back on this, right? Why was I fading him? Well, a few reasons, right? One was that Tyrone Tracy was coming off a solid enough rookie season where I thought he was still going to have a role. And I thought I thought at worst it was going to be a split. And I don't know why I necessarily thought that. Like, there was no possibility that this random day 3 back could get replaced by another day 3 back. I don't really know why that was the case or why I thought that. I thought the offense was going to be too bad to support elite running back production. I think that part was just stupid because to get these big value gains and to get these spike weeks, like, you don't need to be an elite offense. The Giants are not going to be an elite offense all year long. It doesn't really matter because he's getting so many of the touches. If you get enough of the touches, you're going to gain value, you're going to score points. So I don't know if that argument mattered too much. I think it was more relevant for like a Caleb Johnson where he was never going to get receiving work, and Scadaboo was going to get that. So it doesn't matter if you're losing, if you're getting the passing game stuff. I did lean in, I think, to some other analysts' evaluations that he was maybe a middling talent. Now, there were a lot of people saying he was really good. Some people that I trust, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but there were some people I trusted that just said he didn't look that good on film. And then there was obviously the reports that he didn't have any juice, that the NFL didn't really like him because his game wasn't going to translate. And I think I put too much stock into that conversation of like explosiveness. So you have plenty of running backs that can succeed without having that top gear of breakaway speed. That's not the only trait that a running back needs to be good. He had a lot of good traits. He broke a lot of tackles in college. And then honestly, like he has this it factor too. And I think I'm not really sure yet if this is really something that has signal, because I think there have been plenty of prospects with big personalities that didn't work out, like hello, Shedeur Sanders. But it did feel like it always did kind of feel like he was different than other like day 3 picks, right? Because he had so much like brand equity behind him where people had these strong feelings about him. Like he was getting attention from the media. Like people were very interested in what he was doing. That's not really, you don't see that with day 3 picks that much. And so one of the reasons why we are hesitant about these day 3 picks is because we don't know if they're going to get opportunity, and we don't know if they have staying power once they get that opportunity. But I feel like it already seems impossible to me that the Giants would replace him. It just seems like his vibes are too strong. Like he's like a national treasure at this point. That he's the hero. He's one of the favorite players on that whole team for every Giants fan. Like you ask a Giant right now, who's their favorite player? It's Jackson Dart, it's Cam Scadaboo, and then who? It's obviously Neighbors, he's hurt. And then it's like Brian Burns. Like he is a franchise defining player for them at this point. I think he has a ton of job security. So I think looking back on this, I don't think it was good process to fade Scadaboo. I think it would have been fine to just be at market. I feel like going in the early second round was aggressive enough. I don't think we needed to be taking him. Obviously, if we redrafted now, he would go in the first round. But I don't think process-wise, as a 4th round rookie running back, I don't think that he should have been going like in the first round. I don't think he should have been going ahead of Golden. I don't think he should have been going ahead of Burden or Loveland or Dart or Caleb Johnson even. I mean, I think he probably should have been in a tier with Caleb Johnson in the earlier part of the second round, same tier as Bishal Tuten. I think I should have been leaning more into these ambiguous backfields. And I think I should have recognized that not all of these backs are created equal. Like Cam Scadaboo he's the perfect player archetype to absorb high value touches, which is really important for running backs. These high value touches, targets, goal line. Receptions and touchdowns make elite running backs. And he had an elite receiving profile, like one of the best receiving seasons, one of the best single season receiving profiles in the class, I think arguably the best. And then he has the goal line size. And so even if you're on a bad team, if you can monopolize the high value touches, you can score a lot of points. So I think just a straight up miss and just a bad miss on Scadaboo. I don't know why, in hindsight, I would have ever ranked him behind somebody like a Jack Besh. And I really did sit down and try to think about, I did try to put myself in the moment and try not to be tainted by what we've seen so far. I just think it was a mistake. You look at someone like a Jack Besh, like, bad college production, not an early declare, goes to a bad team, right? He gets second round capital, sure. Matt Harmon liked him, sure. That wasn't, that's not enough. Like round 2 wide receiver, especially late round 2 wide receiver, does not guarantee you're going to be a hit. And even if he was a hit, like what was the ceiling there with Jacoby Myers, with Brock Bowers? I mean, we're bad at evaluating ceiling. Maybe he could have come in and just been really, really good, and it wouldn't have mattered that the competition was there. But it feels like that is close enough to a coin flip in terms of prospect quality. Why don't we just lean with the guy that can take over a backfield and just be a much more impactful player? So I think I still believe that ranking Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins, and Baishal Tutin ahead of Cam Skattebo in the pre-draft process, the post-draft process, I still think that was warranted. I'm not willing to go full revisionist history here and say, actually, we should have been, this high on Skattebo the whole time. I do not regret putting my chips on Tutin as the day 3 running back to select because, one, I think we had more reason to be down on Etienne and Bigsby in Jacksonville with that new regime coming in because those guys had ambiguous roles the previous season. Etienne had looked downright terrible in 2024. And then we had a new coaching staff coming in. So in New York, you bring Dable back. There's more thought of like, okay, he could have loyalty to Tyrone Tracy, who was one of the few bright spots in an otherwise terrible season. You look at Jacksonville, like Liam Cohn comes in and immediately he comes in, Gladstone comes in, they start looking for running backs in the draft. They're trying to get a running back in the draft. They get Baishal Tutin. I think it was reasonable to say like these were both ambiguous backfields, but the Jacksonville backfield was more ambiguous because we didn't have any ties to the coach from any of these running backs. And one of them was hand selected by the coach, and that was Baishal Tutin. So I think ambiguous situation-wise, advantage goes to Tutin. And then I still think that we should have had more confidence in the Jacksonville backfield to produce fantasy points. And the Jacksonville backfield has produced fantasy points. They've just been for Travis Etienne. We knew that Liam Cohn could and does manufacture a ton of points for running backs. And lo and behold, the Jaguars currently rank 7th in running back fantasy points. The Giants rank 20th. So I think we picked the correct situation. I think we picked the correct backfield. I just think that's the way the cookie crumbles. It could have totally gone the other way. Remember, Tracy got hurt too. If Etienne gets hurt in week 1 or week 2 and Tracy doesn't get hurt, it's very easy to picture how Tutin is the one who's getting there and scoring all the fantasy points, and Skattebo is like in a committee. So I think it's always stupid to pretend like the way that things went is the only way they could have gone. And so I think looking back on it, I feel dumb for not having Skattebo higher, but I don't feel dumb for certain things like I said, having Tutin ahead, having these higher draft capital wide receivers that had good profiles, that were landing with good quarterbacks, and saying, hey, maybe those guys are better bets than the day 3 running back who apparently all of the NFL thinks doesn't have a skill set that can translate. So, yeah. Process error. It happens. We got to adjust. We got to move on. But anyway, that's my talk on Skattebo. That's how I'm thinking through it right now. And I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. Hope you guys have a good one. Hope you win your week 6 matchups. I will see you in the Discord.